welcome back to Rick and Elaine discuss the Bible, in particular, the book of Job.
Yeah.
Good morning, Elaine Ray Clark. How are you?
Well, again, I have to correct you. It's actually afternoon here, young man.
Oh, that's right. I live in my world only. This is where I live, and I don't think about anybody else but
Well,
myself.
I'll tell you, it's a good job you're not God then, isn't it?
I'm so glad
Because he
that
lives
I am not.
everywhere. He lives in my time as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
good morning to you. But yeah, it's a good afternoon to me. But yeah, it's from a chilly. Actually, hang on a minute. I just going to turn my aircon off.
yeah, while she's gone turning her aircon off, I am sitting here in the very, very warm home. We have a very warm home. It was kind of chilly and rainy here this morning.
Yeah, it's been a bit dodgy here in Spain as well. I was going to go to England, but my husband had a bit of a scare. He had to go to hospital on Monday and came out Christmas Eve. So we didn't get to go. We were supposed to go on the Tuesday. We had plane tickets booked and everything like that, but unfortunately, he didn't go out. They had to stop his heart and start it again because it was all over the shop. So yeah, so he went down to the theatre and they stopped his heart and started it again.
Wow, that is scary.
It is scary, but the thing is, God is in control. And I'll tell you why, because we were supposed to go Sunday. I booked tickets to go Sunday about 3 weeks ago. But for some reason, I said to my husband, I don't want to go Sunday. I'm going to go Tuesday. So
Hmm.
I said, would you mind if we, change to Tuesday? And considering it was going to be so near Christmas Day, he said, yeah, that's fine. And this happened on Monday morning.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah, we would have been in England. It would have been a little bit more sort of difficult because we're residents here and we got our cards. So yeah, it was but yeah, he's fine now. He's fine.
wow. I'm glad to hear that he's okay. So I'm sitting in a different place, guys. You're probably like, "Hey, where's he at?" I'm actually in my den, and my wife is working in the kitchen. Uh, she painted our table this new vibrant white. It's really beautiful, and I
I
can't
like
sit
white.
at it. Yeah, I do too. It's very, very pretty. And yeah, and Elaine and I have actually delayed. This is the Monday. We're on the Monday before New Year's Eve, so we're going to do this today, put it out tomorrow, and then do another one on Wednesday because of the holidays. And
Mm.
it just so happens that as I was studying this chapter, it's so heavy and it's so like this chapter 3 is so to me it's so sad. And it hit home so hard, all of the grief that I've been through.
Yeah.
But but before we get to that, let's get to the comments. Okay, so from the
Yeah,
last one
that'll
that
be
we did.
lovely to have a look at the car. And again, I just must say, Laurie, he still hasn't sent me that your question. So I'm
Oh,
just over to
Lori.
Rick again.
I'm telling you right now, when you see those questions, Elaine, like it's big. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. And we're so deep in this study. Sorry, Lori, it's me. It's me.
Yeah, it
Don't
is. Yeah,
blame
I must
Elaine.
say, I mean, I know humility should come into play here, but no, it actually is him.
Yeah. Listen, Elaine, real quick before I go into these comments. So, a
Yeah.
few of these people, Tony Driver, Pastor Alan Thompson, who have been commenting, they're actually coming to the Berean Bible Church conference. Uh,
Whoa.
they are. So, I didn't know if you were trying to make plans to come to that because I think it would be awesome if you could all see each other.
Well, I'll tell you what, I might have to come and stay with you, Rick.
Come and stay with me.
Exactly, if Holly will have me.
Oh, of course you will.
Well,
Absolutely.
I would love that. There's so many questions I would like to ask people, particularly in Revelation. So there's an awful lot. So yeah, it would
Well,
be
then
lovely to be able to sort of
Well, let's see if we can get you over here and then go to the conference. And then after the conference, maybe you could come back here with me to Western North Carolina and I could show you around.
that would be wonderful. Wonderful.
I would love that. Yeah. And then perhaps you can meet these people. So, Tony Driver, she's the woman that wrote our Iron Sharpens Iron intro for the show. She
Hi,
said,
Tony.
yeah, hi, Tony. A journey with Jesus has promised safe harbors, not smooth sailing.
Quite right.
What a great
Absolutely.
quote.
Exactly.
I don't know if I've ever heard that. But anyway, here we go. Pastor Alan Thompson. Rick, you and Elaine are rock stars. Hey,
Hey.
watch this. AKA Jesus's lights. The rock stars. Haha, that was very
That's
good.
so wonderful. That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna use that now. We are rock stars. I'm
The
going to
rock
pinch it,
stars.
pretend it's mine.
He says, another great show. Your discussion prompted so many thoughts and even has me wanting to know more about the Hebrew word behind our English word evil. That's really interesting. I think we could probably do some work on that. One of the most impactful aspects of this study was the connection back to Genesis that you guys frequently made, and we are going to bring that up this morning. Then it hit me like a Mack truck. Job's wife is part of the narrative because of Satan's mode of attack. He is going after Job's flesh and bone, verses 4 and 5. And besides his own physical body, nothing is more flesh and bone than his wife. I'm not calling her satanic any more than I would about Peter, but I can almost hear the serpent's whisper in her ear that she vocalized. I can hear the whisper of Jesus in Job's ear, expressed in different words. Get behind me, Satan.
That's right.
So many other thoughts rolling around. Whoops, So many other thoughts rolling around in my head right now, and the only other one I want to mention is thank you, all in caps.
Oh,
Thank
bless your
you.
heart.
Mm.
Oh, absolutely. How wonderful. Yeah, again, this is the adversary, isn't it? You know, again, we're not really told an awful lot about what Job's wife thought about the whole thing, except to know that she said, just curse God and die. So there's obviously a great deal of emotion there. But again, you know, she loved her husband very much, and probably she was just so downcast, hurt, and in pain herself that, you know, we come out with things a bit like being an adversary, but not really wanting to become that adversary. A bit like Peter, like we said before, when he said to the Lord, you know, you don't have to go through this. And the Lord said to him, get behind me, Satan. Well, he was being the adversary of God's plan. And this is the thing. She was being the adversary of God's plan. And he's quite right. He's quite right that there you have this playoff again. You know, this good versus evil, if you like. This is this opposition to a purpose.
Yes, and that's I liked his insight about. I liked what Alan said about how he could hear, like in the what the wife is saying, very much so like Eve, but also how Job is responding like Jesus, like he did to Peter. That we keep seeing these themes kind of recapitulate throughout the scriptures all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, I know it's unfortunate to me. I think a lot of times that women they really do get the short end of the stick. And I think that's, you know, in a lot of ways, but there's plenty of women who don't do what Job's wife do, you know, like there's plenty of women in the scriptures that are very strong and that, you know, that stand up. It's just this theme. I think you're right.
Well, I think it's percentages again. I mean, I can point out more men in the Bible that do things against God than I can women. So the percentages are about sort of right, really, you know. So,
yes. Very good. I mean, you're right. I mean, when we look at David's life, you know, like I think of how, like, let's talk about Jacob, with how Jacob loved Rachel, but how Leah loved Jacob and the heartache that she must have felt because he really didn't want her. Right.
No, but then again, you think about it, that this is a representation of the two covenants.
That's
it's
right.
It's always the first one that is rejected. You know, you go through all the stories of the Bible. You've got Adam, and then the second Adam. The first one's rejected. The first one is the desired. You've got, as you say, Leah and Rachel. You've got Jacob and Esau. You've got Saul and David. You've got all these ones. The first ones that are placed in that position, in my eyes, as I see them, always represent the old covenant arrangement that God always rejects or doesn't love.
Yeah, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. It's always, I mean, Christ said it over and over.
That's right. Again, you know, Cain killed Abel. You know, Abel was the second child, but at the end of the day, we know that Cain was rejected. It was always going to be Abel that was loved by God because of what he did. Again, you can pick out loads of them. Loads of them.
They're everywhere. All right. Tracy Ferguson said, wow, very powerful, Rick and Elaine. Learning from the Job effect can be so crushing. And if we can work through it, it can make us stronger. Being stripped of everything from the choices and decisions that I made and landing in prison where the Father stripped me down and reshaped my life, my mind, and gave me the strength to face life again. It's going to be a long week to wait to hear what is to be said about Job cursed the day of his birth. That's where we're getting to today.
Yeah, absolutely.
God bless you, Rick and Elaine, and Merry Christmas to you both and your families. Love you all. Merry Christmas.
Oh,
We're past Christmas, but Happy New Year to you, Tracy.
absolutely. Love to you as well. Just keep and it's just so wonderful to see that our minds are just gelling together. And
Mhm.
again, although we can't see each other, we see me, but sadly,
Mhm,
and
right.
Ricky, even more sadly.
Right.
But we know you're there. And again, we may not be seeing your flesh, but we know that you're there in spirit and we can feel that. And that's amazing. And it's wonderful. Just keep them coming because we love to hear you
Yes, we do. And I'm so thankful that you guys are still commenting and just talking
soldiering
about it.
on.
Yeah, and with us. So now
Rock
as
stars.
we're rock stars, here we go. So after everything that you guys have seen so far in chapter 1, chapter 2, this heavenly throne room, the divine council, the adversary being there, and the adversary being given the ability by God's sovereign will to allow him to do things to Job and his family. And then to come out the other side where Job and his friends arrive and they're sitting there for 7 days in complete silence, which is the best thing that they could have ever done and probably should have continued to do. We get to this moment. And last week, whenever Elaine was reading out of the complete Jewish Bible, it ended with, and Job opened his mouth, whereas mine in the ESV did not. That didn't start until chapter 3.
Mm.
And I found out why. The reason why is because there is a shift in the actual writing itself. Job 1 and 2 in our Bible, not the complete Jewish, it's a little different. In our scripture or in our Bibles, that is narrative prose. That's where you're hearing about what happened to Job. That's where that is. But in Job chapter 3 verse 1 or at the end of Job chapter 2 for your complete Jewish Bible, it is switching to a very dense Hebrew poetry.
It is.
And and you can't see it in the English. You just can't see it. And you can't when you get back into the Hebrew, that's where it shows up. And now this is something that they use. And when it says and Job opened his mouth,
Well, I've
or
gotten Job broke the silence.
yes, either way, that's
Broke the
actually
silence.
it's a Hebrew idiom.
Yeah.
It is a Hebrew idiom that is opening up dense Hebrew poetry. And he opened his mouth. This man's about to say something, and it's going from what happened to Job to now what it feels to be Job.
Does it say at the end of yours or the beginning, whatever one it is for you? At length, Job broke the silence and cursed the day of his birth. Does it say that in
Yeah.
yours? It does,
The
yeah.
way that the way that mine says it in Job chapter 3, and I'll use the English Standard Version because you have the complete Jewish and you have the King
I have
James
the King
probably.
James.
So it says this, after this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. And Job said, let the day perish on which I was born and the night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I got news for you. As I was sitting here working on this, getting ready for this study, I'm doing it over the Christmas holiday. And while I'm in this holiday, I'm thinking about my father-in-law that I passed away, my father-in-law from my first marriage, who was very close to me and my children.
Mm.
I was thinking about my foster mother who raised me, that passed away this year. And then my niece, Brianna, like Glenn Hill passed away this
Oh,
year.
yeah.
Rachel Rue passed away this year. Like all these people.
David
Katie
and
Curtis,
Kathy's.
David and Kathy's daughter, she passed
Yeah.
away. Folks, there's so many people that are gone after this year. And it's Christmas time and I'm trying to be in the Christmas spirit and be happy. And I'm sitting down thinking, okay, I've got to study this out and write notes and I'm going to talk with Elaine. And guys, it got heavy. It got really, really heavy. And I was like, if you've ever felt like Job in this, he thought to himself, I just wish I'd never been born. Then I wouldn't have to feel all this. Why did you give me all of this life and give me all of this goodness and all of this blessing just to let it be taken away from me? I'm not cursing you. I'm cursing the day of my birth.
Is it strange though that it is? But you think to yourself after all those days of contemplation, of sitting there, of being in pain. The man was in pain, obviously, because we know he was scraping the sores on his body, the boils or whatever they were. that's what he came up with. That was the bottom line.
Hmm.
And again, he's not even thinking about because if he had never been born, he wouldn't have had those children. So
Hmm.
he's probably contemplating, or it's all, maybe it's a little bit selfish, really, because at the end of the day, he wouldn't have his children, but the children could have been believers, couldn't they? So therefore, they wouldn't have been anywhere in God's sort of plan of redemption because they wouldn't have existed.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
strange what your mind does to you. You can't rationalize or reason, you know, when people are in that frame of mind. I know people that have tried to commit suicide, that they've been in a frame of mind that's absolutely terrible, see no way out. But you speak to them 10 years later and they say I don't even know what I was thinking. No idea. And thank heavens that I didn't end my life. So it just shows you that the confusion of emotions that just wash over you like crashing waves, and you just cannot think correctly.
No, you can't. And I'm glad you brought up that idea about suicide because whenever I was a child, whenever I was a teenager, I went through that too. Like I had these very dark moments. Everything just seemed so sad to me and I didn't want to live either. I mean, that's how I felt. I went through it with my son. My son had, felt that way too. And now when we look back, both of us, we talk about it. We're like, wow, like we went into a dark
Yeah.
spell and I'm so thankful that God got us through it.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't your time. See, God doesn't allow his children to do anything. You can't interfere with God's plan for you. You've got a certain amount of breaths, Job says, and when they're exhausted, that's when God says that's enough. Before
Right.
that, you can have all sorts of stuff. You can have cancer all over your body. If it's not your time, you're going nowhere.
Hmm. That's exactly right.
Mm.
But here's what I think we should do. And if you're willing to do it, Elaine, I know that this is a very long chapter. I have 26 verses. And guys, I know that you can read it. But Elaine, if you're willing to do it, rather than breaking it all down, I thought it would be good if we just read it all and felt the weight of what Job is saying. And so, anybody who's watching this study, set your stuff down, turn everything off, slide it to the side, lean back, close your eyes, and listen carefully to all the words that Elaine's getting ready to read that's coming from Job.
Right. Job said, "Perish the day I was born, and the night that said, a man is conceived. May that day be darkness. May God on high not seek it. May no light shine on it. May gloom, dark as death, defile it. May clouds settle on it. May it be terrified by its own blackness. As for that night, may thick darkness seize it. May it not be joined to the days of the year. May it not be numbered among the months. May that night be desolate. May no cry of joy be heard in it. May those who curse days curse it. Those who curses could rouse Leviathan. May the stars of its twilight be dark. May it look for light but get none. May it never see the shimmer of dawn, because it didn't shut the doors of the womb I was in and shield my eyes from trouble. If I had been stillborn, if I had died at birth, had there been no knees to receive me or breasts for me to suck, then I would be lying still and in peace. I would have slept and been at rest along with kings and their earthly advisers, who rebuilt ruins for themselves, or with princes who had plenty of gold, who filled their houses with silver, or I could have been like a hidden, miscarried child that never saw light. There the wicked cease their raging, there where the weary are at rest. Prisoners live at peace together without hearing a taskmaster's yells. Great and small alike are there, and the slave is free from his master. So why must light be given to the miserable and life to the bitter in spirit? They long for death, but it never comes. They search for it more than for buried treasure. When at last they find the grave, they are so happy they shout for joy. Why give light to a man who wanders blindly, who God shuts in on every side? My sighing serves in place of my food, and my groans pour out in a torrent, for the thing I feared has overwhelmed me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quiet, no rest, and anguish keeps on coming."
Oh my, can you feel that?
The heart, honestly, it's made me tingle inside, and my heart's sad.
Yeah, you read that very well. It's like you captured it because he is like, oh, if darkness can just overwhelm me. If when he speaks, it's when you were reading it, I don't know why I didn't catch this before, but when I heard you say it, the way that he's describing the kings and princes and those who
Yeah.
are prisoners and all like that, it's that death is the great levels the playing field, right?
Exactly. It takes you away from every position that you possibly have, whether great or small. And like you say, it levels everybody out.
You know what's awesome? I don't know why I never caught this before, but isn't that exactly what Christ did? Because Christ says in his life, in my life, there is no slave, nor free, nor male, nor female, nor,
No,
right? Like kings and
no,
princes, the leveling, he levels the playing field in life, in
he
eternal life.
did.
He level. So everything that Job is seeing in death because of everything that he's lost, Christ is going to show in life, in his life, that bread, that water, that sustenance. So, because when I sent you, the thing that I heard the first time and then I read through it when I was reading it, it's different when you read it and hear it. That's
Yes,
wild.
it is. I
Because
like
when
to
I'm,
hear it.
yeah, I do too. And whenever you were reading it, I totally saw something else, you know? I mean, what I saw when I was reading it was the decreation, a cosmic decreation of something. And I mentioned this to you that it looked like he was uncreating Genesis, like he was going in reverse. And then you asked me this question about it. Let's bring that
Well,
up.
well, yeah. Again, it's trying to work out in what time period that this would have been written. To say that there is this sort of like reversing, but back to Genesis, this sort of like this light and dark, this is opposites, and you just think to yourself, well, actually, when was it? Did Job? When did all this happen to Job? Was he a contemporary of Abraham? Was he prior to Abraham? Was it when the law was given to those at Mount Sinai? He's talking about things here that if you think that it's bringing up Genesis, he must have had a verbal account passed down to him, because we've got no record of it other than what we consider to have been written by Job and placed in there by those the third century BCE, that AD, I mean, that decided that should be placed in there.
Right. You know what? So I've heard so many
Where
different.
where was he? Do you think? Because I've read so many different aspects of where he could be
Mhm. I
placed in
believe
time.
I believe that the land of Uz, where Job is from, I believe that Job is most likely a descendant of Abraham, somewhere in that is outside of the promised line through Isaac. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's through Esau into Edom down over here, because some of those people we know from where they're from. Bildad the Shuhite and Eliphaz, the Temanite, Timan comes from that. So I believe that he knows, whether it's verbal or not. There's this theory, there's an ancient Toledot theory, or there's this theory that Genesis chapter 1 was possibly written down by Adam. We don't know this. There's no way of knowing. But there's this
No.
idea that Genesis chapter 1 was not written necessarily by Moses, but was compiled, whether it's from oral tradition or whatever, but compiled together. But that Genesis 1 is a temple dedication like text. And that's why it's
So,
written.
but are we saying that it's real then, or are we saying it's just a way of viewing something that isn't of substance? It's just a spiritual idea. Or
Right.
are we?
So this is again, that comes down to the way that people look at it and interpret it. You and I have talked about this, looking at it as real, but then overlaying the spiritual with it, and the way that we've been talking about it. Some people see it strictly as this covenantal, temple dedication, because they found other things in the ancient Near East that are written much similar to this, and they're saying this is their temple dedication. That it's implied that God did all of creation. For me, man, it's way above my pay grade, but I can tell you what I'm reading the scripture. Seeing a tree first is easier to make a symbol out of later once you've seen the tree. But
Yes.
we don't know where we are in the story whenever Genesis 1 was written down. We really don't. We don't know how far along these people were when they wrote it. But what we
Yeah.
do know is that this Genesis 1 is that you've got this happening. You've got light that's replacing the darkness or setting aside the darkness. You've got order that is replacing chaos. you've got the time being structured, you've got fruitfulness and life being blessed, and then you have rest being built into that creation, a full 7 days. And when you get to Genesis 2, we see that God rests on that day. All 7 days are complete.
Mhm.
So it certainly seems that in the situation with Job, that 7 days of silence, my brain, my light went off when I saw seven. I knew it was 7 in the morning, but I thought, oh boy, there's 7 days here. This is lining up with what we've already known earlier on in Genesis of these 7 days, even the 7 days of mourning that Joseph did for his father
But
Jacob.
but the only thing is, he was silent for
That's
7
fine.
days.
That's fine. Being silent means that the opposite of that is that God, whenever he was doing it, he spoke. God spoke, and these things happened in Genesis. But I can, and I did send you in the notes. What were your thoughts? What do you
The only
think?
thing
Do you
I'd
think
say
it has
before
anything
we,
to do with Genesis at all?
the thing is, it says here that he was silent for 7 days and 7 nights. Now
Yes,
that says to me that he actually spoke on the eighth day.
that's
Now
right.
yeah. So therefore, then whether he had a Sabbath silence first and then the end of the Sabbath, so that would be seven. So from Sabbath to Sabbath is seven. And then he
Hmm.
spoke on the eighth day. Now, the only
Yes.
time that I would think that that would have any sort of like meaning to it would be that when I go back to Genesis, all I know is that God rested on the seventh day. He doesn't tell me about an eighth day. The only time I ever get an eighth day, Rick, is when I go to the seven feasts that complete in 70, the end of the Jewish setup. It's not only the Jewish setup; it's the end of the reign of the nations, and it's also the end of the Adamic sin.
Hmm.
So therefore, the eighth day to me would be a day where God would do away with all these things. That would
Hmm.
be for me, because I see the eighth day of the tabernacles, because let's face it, here we're talking about the eighth day. There's no eighth day anywhere else.
Right.
There's only an eighth day when it talks about the tabernacles. And it seems to me that when I look at Job and he spoke on the eighth day, he's talking about a lot of stuff that's going wrong, a lot of sorrows, a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, death, destruction, everything wiped away. And it just seems to me that God culminates that on that day, the eighth day, when Job starts his speaking. And it's
Hmm.
almost like God then turns it all around and says, well,
Hmm.
actually, it's not like that. Actually, it's not like this. So to me, it's a reversal on that eighth day, even though, again, it doesn't tell me whether Job slept or whether that conversation went on the eighth day alone.
Hmm.
I'm only gleaning that it did. So therefore, is this eighth day where he says all this and then God counteracts that and actually makes it right? And I think that at the end of Tabernacles, the Feast of Tabernacles, where we know that God says, right, you don't have to live in tabernacles anymore. Right, you don't have to. I won't give you any signs anymore. Like I won't feed you from heaven anymore of manna. I won't do this. Now you plant your own yourselves. You'll
For
plant yours.
sure.
Yeah, so I'm wondering whether there's something to do with that aspect of it, because he's pouring out all of this, but then it is that God counteracts it right at the end and brings in this wonderful hope. And of course, we know that Job's children are in the grave. We know that if they were, they are going to get a resurrection. We know that God give him more children as a blessing, as a gift.
Hmm.
So I would see it more, uh, again, because in Genesis, you don't have an eighth day. You only get an eighth day in 70 when the last festival, the Feast of Tabernacles, has its last hurrah, if you like. After that, nothing. So
Yeah.
I would see something to do with that more than, and tie that in with Genesis and the Lord saying, I am Lord of the Sabbath. So again, there's still this ongoing Sabbath, because we don't get another day in Genesis. It's still Sabbath. Jesus is
Hmm.
the Lord of the Sabbath, and we enter that rest, that Sabbath. So it's the story just sort of like continually flows, this story of redemption, of salvation, this love story, which we keep on sort of really need to get people to understand that it is a love story. God wanted his own children. And I just think that here, taking it back to Job again, that this is somebody that has really got to the nth degree of despair and he's cursing, like it says there, he curses that day, but God is at the end of it saying to him, but you've gone through all this trial, but there's triumph at the end. And I'm going to tell you what that triumph is. And it is a bit like us, really. There is a triumph at the end for all of us that have been born into this world, that go through trials and tribulations, that suffer all those things. There is an eighth day for us. And we enter into that eighth day.
Sure. And I think that, but I think that we have to take the weight of Job chapter 3 so that we can understand that, first of all, the adversary said that Job would curse God. And that's not what Job cursed. Job is a righteous man. He's blameless. Exactly. He's upright. What does he curse? He cursed the day of his birth. He did.
Absolutely.
Now, that you could look at that and say that's spitting in the face of God. But if you pay close attention to all of Job, God handles that. He can handle that with reality. When you can talk to God and you can be honest, you can say these things like, I wish I'd been miscarried because then I wouldn't feel this. That's an awful thing to say. But if you've went through what Job's going through, that's a mild thing to say, because I've been through some grief and nothing anywhere close to what Job went through.
No. And I'll tell you what is interesting as well. He never turns around and says, I wish I never existed. Now, these are all things to me that turn around and say that whether a child's miscarried, or we know that there are people that have had children aborted, that have become Christians, have really regretted, repented, sobbed, and still probably sob over that child. But he doesn't ever say, I wish I didn't exist. He says, I wish I wasn't born. He says, I wish I was miscarried, showing you that he didn't want to not be conceived.
Yeah, sure.
Because conception is life.
Right. Yeah.
So therefore then, but if non-existence he wanted, which he didn't because he knew something else, he's not going to use those terms, non-existence, because he knows back there, if only I could be with those that have died, that long for, where does he say there? That find the grave. Well, this is what he's saying. Well, if you're non-existent, you don't ever find the grave. But if you are a child that's been aborted, or if you are a child that's been miscarried, or if you had been a stillborn child, this is where God says, right, you are life. And I am going to make sure that that life, no matter how it ended, is going to be honored. And that's what I see in this. I see Job, even through these reasonings about cursing himself, he never curses to the point where he says, I wish I didn't exist. And mind you, I suppose he says, perish the day I was born and the night that said a man is conceived. So maybe then he's saying, well, like, even then I don't want to be conceived. So maybe he is actually saying that, which would be pretty dire if that is the whole sort of like aspect of what he's saying.
Well, listen, this is really what I got when I was reading it. Different when I heard it, but when I was reading it. To me, what God does for blessing is, now Job is seeing that blessing as a curse to him. Just the very existence of life is a curse, because he's having this depth of destruction and devastation in his life. And the reason I went to Genesis is simply because that's where the blessings begin. So in Genesis, it begins with light overcoming darkness. And so in Job, he begs for his day to be darkness. In Genesis, it says, let there be light. Job says, let my day not have light. He wants his birthday to be swallowed up by darkness. Let not God regard it. He doesn't even want God to regard it. Genesis establishes the days, the seasons, the months, the years. But Job literally asks for his day to be removed from the calendar. He says, let it not be joined unto the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. See, that's an attempt to erase a day. Remember, God made those days and said it was good, very good, right? God set stars, sun, moon to rule the day and night. Job asked for the stars. He literally asked for the stars of his dawn to be dark.
Yeah.
Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. And he's calling for the markers of time to fail. Because again, it's connected to life. It's connected to his life. So he's not cursing God, he's cursing his day. Genesis blesses fruitfulness. It says it, that's God's blessing. But Job wants the night of his conception to be barren. He wants it to
He
be
does.
silent. He calls for no joyful voice. He doesn't want the women that receive him to
So
their
do you?
lap to be
So do you think?
joyful.
Right. So do you think then, although he says there that may it not be joined to the days of the year, not being numbered among the months, I do you think he's saying that I wouldn't want a birth on a particular day or a particular month? Or are
I don't
you?
know if it's that particular. I think he just doesn't want to live anymore.
I understand that, but I'm trying to sort of like tie it in with the fact he says, "Perish the day I was born." Well,
Yeah.
you know, being born, you're conceived. So, and the
Yes.
night that I was conceived. So, is he actually condemning that night he was conceived, or not necessarily the conception itself, but what came from it, which was his life?
Hmm. I think he's really seeing that the blessings that God put in order, that he put into order, that there's a way to live within that, a frame of reference, if you will, where it looks awful. God's blessing looks awful to him because of this. So I think that if you've never experienced the grief like this, and I can't say that I've experienced it like Job. I have never experienced the loss of 10 children and all my stuff all in one day. Okay. Never happened. But I do know, just watching a mother who just lost her child, literally in October, and having conversations with them without Christ, and they said this to me, without Christ, they would want to cease to exist. They have no interest in life anymore. Everything in their life was their child.
Absolutely.
And now
100%.
suddenly that is gone. And so cursed is the day of their own birth, that you would let me have this child, raise it, bring it up just to see it go and leave me here living. Like Job's experiencing that exponentially, you
Yeah.
know, with all of this stuff.
Yeah. They're building and building and building.
It's exponential. And
Yeah.
so he, when you get to the end of his speech, think about it. When God's done blessing, he enters into the rest. And that's something that Christ promised. Enter into my rest.
And
What?
that's
Yes, that's
exactly
the
right.
day 8 you're talking about.
That's the day 8 that you're talking about. 100%. And that's what I'm saying. You know, because you know what I believe with the Genesis chapter 1, verses 1, 2, and 3. I believe that, you know, now the earth was without form and void. And the reason I believe that is because I can go to Jeremiah chapter 4, where he's talking about the nation of Israel having no understanding. He said, they are without form and void. So he's actually quoting a line from Genesis. He's saying these people are without form and void simply because they're not listening, they're not obeying, they're not putting into practice all the things that they said they would at Mount Sinai. So, you know, for me, I go back to that and I just have to say around and say, well, you know, has he got some idea about that as well? You know, where it says there, you know, may look for light, but get none. You know, where it says there, you know, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And God said, let there be light. Is he turning around saying then, going right the way back to the understanding that he had of Genesis, saying if only light didn't come, I would still be in darkness. And maybe he associates darkness with not really having life.
Definitely. What does it say? What does Christ say in John 1? In him was the light, and his light was the
life
of men. The life is the light of men. In him was life, and the life was the light of men.
Exactly. That's
there
right.
It is.
And there you go back to, once again, this is why I think that Genesis, I mean, this is, you can't help, you know, going back to certain aspects of the Bible to explain other aspects, because it is a wonderful love story. It's not just a mishmash of sermons here and a sermon there, which you might understand a sermon, but it doesn't give you from Genesis to Revelation this story that has to really sort of tie in with all of these people and all of these little books that have been placed in the Bible. You know, whether some people think some shouldn't be put in or some have been left out. All I know is that the Holy Spirit will guide you into all truth if you want it. So for me, I have to go back to the beginning and turn around and say, you know, is he saying that? Is he saying, well, you know that I think that Genesis chapter 1 verses 2 and 3 actually starts at Genesis 15, where he says, I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between her seed and your seed. And he talks about, you know, now you will bring forth, you know, food in the sweat of your face, bread. It goes back to now the earth was without form and void. Adam was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. Well, he was the face of mankind. He was empty and void of all life. And like you said, that Christ was the light of mankind. Well, there was none until God said, let there be light. And there was. And therefore, there you get the separation. So is he sort of talking about this aspect of it too? You know, may the stars of its twilight be dark, may it look for light, but get none. May it never see the shimmer of dawn. You know, Jesus is the morning star. You know, again, is he sort of like, does he know about this promised Messiah way back there? You know,
Yeah, I think he's going to. We haven't got to that place yet where Job actually says it, because Job thinks there's something there.
He does.
And I think he even says, I know my Redeemer lives. And so he'll come to that place. But right now where he's at, he's not. I know he knows it. But he, after all of this devastation, for sitting for 7 days, let's say he's literally sitting 7 days, and he finally speaks, this is as far as man can take you. Like when you're looking at like you're in the depths, but the farthest that you can reach, the best you can possibly do is just in the life that you have. Right? But Christ takes us beyond that. So I think that he's going to know this later. He's going to find that nugget and he's going to say that. I know that my Redeemer lives.
Absolutely. And this is the whole thing where it says that last verse, it says, I have no peace, no quiet, no rest, and anguish keeps coming. And yet you think about it, Christ came to give us that peace, to give us that quiet spirit, to give us that rest in him. And if anguish does keep coming, we know what the anguish is all about. We know what the tribulation is all about. And we know that it refines us. Like with Job, we know that as we read the way through it, it dawns on him that no matter how good he thought he was, God is once again showing him aspects of himself that he didn't know existed until these situations arose.
Right. Well, look, and Job's not the only righteous man in all the Bible that felt this way. Listen to this, Jeremiah chapter 20. I'm going to read it to you. This is Jeremiah. Cursed be the day wherein I was born. Let not the day wherein my mother bare me be blessed. Cursed be the man who brought tidings to my father, saying, a man child is born unto thee, making him very glad. And let that man be the cities which the Lord overthrew, and repented not. And let him hear the cry in the morning and the shouting at noontide, because he slew me not from the womb, or that my mother might have been my grave, and her womb to be always great with me. Wherefore came I forth out of the womb, to see labor and sorrow, that my days should be consumed with shame.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Jeremiah. And what's happening? The destruction of his own city. The prophet that he is there for. Nebuchadnezzar is coming. Nothing can stop him. And he's saying, why did I have to be born in this?
Exactly. And the sad thing is that nobody's even listening to him. They're going after him.
No, they're not listening to him. They're putting him in prison. They don't care.
And isn't it wonderful when you go to Hebrews 11, the men and women of faith, these were the ones where it says that, you know, they went through this, they went through that, they were torn asunder, they were killed, and it says there the world was worthy of them. It's always those that go to those terrible, terrible deaths of despair that God chooses, that God gives a life like that to. It's almost like saying, as bad as it can get for you, I have held you up and you have been a witness to me through your pain and suffering. So that is greatness. And it made me think of when the apostles, when they were flogged by the Sanhedrin, they went away skipping and they said they felt worthy to be flogged in behalf of the name of Christ. They got the understanding then that the tribulation that they would face or that they would go through, all those X amount of years that they did, whether some of them died before those 40 years, but you've got to turn around and say that they understood then that to have these things placed upon you was a blessing and it wasn't a curse.
Right. That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah. So where Job is, where Jeremiah was, this psalm used to drive me crazy, and it doesn't anymore thanks to this study. And actually, thanks to what I've went through at the end of this year with all of this, again, death does this to you. It takes you to places you never thought you would go. And I know Job never thought he was going to be where he was that day. No. I don't think Jeremiah had a clue either. But listen to this. Psalm 88. Psalm 88. Matter of fact, I have read it so many times. I would like to hear you read that. Would you read that? Psalm 88. Guys, listen to this in the despair and notice there's no resolution to this. It used to drive me nuts. Psalm 88.
Right. Notice he always plunges me in at the deep end.
Yes.
So if it goes a little bit off patter here, you know why. It says, Adonai, God of my salvation, when I cry out to you in the night, let my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry for help, for I am oversupplied with troubles which have brought me to the brink of Sheol. I am counted among those going down to the pit, like a man who is beyond help, left by myself among the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave. You no longer remember them. They are cut off from your care. You plunged me into the bottom of the pit, into dark places, into the depths. Your wrath lies heavily on me. Your waves crushing over me keep me down. You separated me from my close friends, made me repulsive to them. I am caged in with no escape. My eyes grow dim from suffering. I call on you, Adonai, every day. I spread out my hands to you. Will you perform wonders for the dead? Can the ghosts of the dead rise up and praise you? Will your grave be declared in grace be declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in Elbadan? Will your wonders be known in the dark, or your righteousness in the land of oblivion? But I cry out to you, Adonai. My prayers come before you in the morning. So why, Adonai, do you reject me? Why do you hide your face from me? Since my youth, I have been miserable, close to death. I am numb from bearing these terrors of yours. Your fierce anger has overwhelmed me. Your terrors have shriveled me up. They surge around me all day like a flood. From all sides, they close in on me. You have made friends and companions shun me. The people I know are hidden from me.
Oh my goodness. I used to read this. Listen to this. I used to read this. There is no resolution in this psalm. It goes from bad to worse.
It
But
does.
but listen, there's a little nugget, guys, in Psalm 88 that is exactly like Job chapter 3, that is exactly what it feels like for those who are lost and suddenly see this. That man in Psalm 88 says, "But I cry out to you, Adonai." It's the cry. It's the calling out. It's the one that's reaching. He's reaching. Why? Because we're in Adam. We're in this depth. We're in this pain and suffering and we're separated. But
Mhm.
there is the ability to cry, but I cry out to you and he hears. What you'll
Mhm.
find out through all the Psalms, even though there's no resolution in this one, what we find is that the crying out to God is really where
Mhm.
it's at. And all of us have to do it. We all have to cry out to him. I can't cry out to him for you. You have to cry out to him. But we have hope on this side of eternity. We have
That's
hope
right.
where we are because we weren't left in the dust because Christ brought us out of it. Christ was the Redeemer. He's the one that they were crying out to. He's the one that's going to set it all straight. That's the
Absolutely.
joy we've been trying to tell everybody about.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And this is the difference. This is the side of it that they don't quite get. They don't quite understand. I mean, again, the Holy Spirit didn't inhabit them. Some of
No.
them it came upon, entered, but it left. It wasn't the time for God to take up residence in people. That had to be after Christ. So
Right.
therefore, again, we're in a lot better position today. So now we see that this pain and suffering, we can look at it from our position and know that at the end of the day, there's nobody that suffered any more than anybody else to a greater or lesser degree. It's a human, it's the human emotions. But now we know, like it says there in Revelation, there's no more mourning, no more outcry, no more pain. The former
Mhm.
things have passed away. We don't cry out mourning, pain because we know the answers to them now. We're not
Mhm.
saying that you don't suffer sadness when you have a loss, but what we're saying is the reason for these things. You know that Christ has solved the problem. Already, I believe that we're already there. God is in time. Time counts nothing for him. He's in eternity. All of us are even speaking today that are going through things that will live till tomorrow. We're already there together. We're
Mhm.
already mixing together. We're just doing time at the moment. We're just all
Yes,
doing time.
we are, and that's why reading Job chapter 3 on Christmas Day is weird.
Well, yeah,
But it's perfect at the same time because
because
December 25th, whether it really was or wasn't the birth of Christ, it's the
I don't
time
think
when we as America I think it was September 11th personally, but I'm not going to get in there.
Well, yeah,
This,
well, I'm around. It's the tabernacles.
yeah, this is the day whenever we celebrate the incarnation. That's what December 25th is. And that's the exact moment whenever the heavenly hosts say, on earth, peace on earth, goodwill towards men. He is the light. He is this, like, this is the moment when the Christ child comes to the world. So I'm reading
Yeah.
Job chapter 3, feeling all this grief, and then I'm listening to the sermon about Christ being born into the world. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know
I
my Redeemer lives. Like, there he is.
exactly,
There
and
he is.
this is the poles, and it's almost like it's like an egg timer. You've got the top of it, and then you've got the little tiny pinch in the middle. Then you've got the rest of it. It's
Right.
you have before Christ, and then you have that pinch of Christ, and then afterwards you have a totally different setup. All
Mhm.
that has sort of gone before has fallen into that through Christ, and all that's gone through Christ will live again.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
all those in him, because we have to turn around and say, you know, David must have been in Christ, even though Christ didn't exist at that particular time. He knew that
Mhm.
his Redeemer lived, and it's all about faith. It's always been about faith, even with the nation of Israel, and even prior to that, it's always been about faith. It's always been about trust and belief. It's never been about
And I want
anything
to,
else.
I guess what you're saying is that Christ wasn't living on the earth in human form. He certainly
That's exactly
existed.
correct.
Yeah, he
That's
certainly
what I'm saying.
existed.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying. Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
we know, again, you know, that those back there, they didn't have what we have today. We know
Right.
we have the story of Christ's birth. We have his 3.5 years of his ministry. We have what happened afterwards. We know what happened for those 40 years leading up to the destruction of the temple. And we know
Hmm.
beyond that, because we are now living in the beyond 2,000 years later. And we
Yes.
still rejoice over that birth. We still rejoice over what it accomplished. And the accomplishment will continue because the kingdom continues. It never ends. And this is where
Hmm.
people think this world is never going to end. No, because there's always going to be God's children. You have to be born into this to be born from above. There's always going to
Yeah,
be God's children entering those gates.
that's it. You have to be born in this to be born from above.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's why there's so many ministers that I think really get it right. It doesn't matter to me if you get your timing right, if you get all of your theology correct. I'm just hear me out, everybody.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
There's a moment for all of us when we heard that blessed gospel and we responded to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where it's at for me.
Yes.
That's where it's at for me. Is
Yeah.
that if you're not telling other people about the Redeemer who lives,
Yeah.
like if you're not telling people about him, then you need to stop doing what you're doing and start. Because
Exactly.
that should be the most important thing to you, honestly.
Exactly.
When we know our
Exactly.
Redeemer, we have the Holy Spirit in us, we know it.
Yes.
Why
Yeah.
would you hold that in and just
Yeah.
wrestle with theology? Yes, it's important. Doctrine is important. Paul, Peter, all of them, they knew how important doctrine was.
Yeah, but
But
you
if
think about it. Well, you think about it though, Rick. I mean, you know, when Paul's day, you had the Gentiles, you didn't have the law, so he was sort of like trying to sort of like get them to come into this relationship, become a part of this new creation, and then you
Mhm,
had those that wanted to wander back or wanted to take sort of like Judaism into what Christ had given, and
mhm.
Christ says, "Oh, no, 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 you can't do that," and Paul was sort of fighting against that. But today, what we have is so many different people saying so many different things that there's more confusion now than there ever was in Paul's day.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
it's
just
because
need
there's
to,
more information. That's
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
exactly. And like 99.999% of it just isn't on cutting the mustard. And that is the thing. You know, this is why I constantly say to people, it's not a question of just going through the scriptures and giving an argument as to why, or presenting a reason as to why you believe what you do. Although I know that they were supposed to give a reason as to why they have the faith, but you know, it's not really about that. It's about the story of redemption. It goes from Revelation. You know, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the beginning and the end. I'm the first and the last. I am Genesis and I am Revelation. The story of me is there.
Hmm.
And once you understand the story, I think that everything. I don't really care about you know, whether I have all the academic understanding of the scriptures. What I want is the love story. I want the
Yes,
love story.
same. I'm the
Yeah.
same guy. And listen here. So here, let's tie this study up really nice with a little bow. Are you ready? Watch this. This is awesome.
Go away.
So I said Genesis 1 is the blessing. You've got Job in the position where he's like, uncreate me, decreate me. But you have people like David that says, recreate in me a clean heart, oh
Right.
God. And Christ does what? Makes us a new creation. You just said it,
That's right.
guys.
100%.
Yes. So
And
if
isn't
you
it
ever want to
wonderful?
learn it, read Job chapter 3 on Christmas Day.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
That changes the story, doesn't it? Pulls apart. And yet, I know my Redeemer lives.
I
I,
know my Redeemer even he knew it. He knew it.
yeah. And
There's a
he
hope there.
understood. He
Hmm.
understood Genesis 3, where it says, I'll put enmity between you and the woman. He knows his Redeemer lives. He knows that there's going to be a Redeemer one day. He doesn't know. It's a bit like, when he says about, all those prophets they planted, but you're reaping their benefits.
That's right.
It's
Hmm.
it's understanding and getting this great, and this is the whole thing. When we become Christ, our life isn't our own anymore. It
Hmm.
is Christ. So therefore, we are going to live a life in eternity where we won't have to be persuading people. But
Hmm.
today we use, like the Bible says, the art of persuasion. We tell them from Genesis to Revelation that there is a story. It's a beautiful love story, and we encounter many people along the way. And again, it starts off and it gets narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower. And then we
Hmm.
get down to one family, King David, and then we get down to the Messiah, Christ. And then in him, everything explodes and it all becomes apparent. All becomes
Yes.
apparent. And isn't it
And
wonderful that we are on this side of it? As much as I would like to have been around in Christ's day, isn't it wonderful to be able to sort of like look at the whole, mind you, they would have understood that. Imagine being on the road to Emmaus. Oh, what a Bible study that would have
to
been.
listen to Jesus tell all
Oh,
that he said about himself, yeah, I would
from
have loved that.
exactly from Moses through all the prophets. I mean, can you imagine from Moses? I mean, it was there already. There already.
What did
It's
they
just
say? They
sitting there.
said, and I've felt this before. I know you have. He's like, did you feel that fire burning in your heart when he was talking?
Exactly,
I felt
exactly.
that. Yes. Have
Yeah,
you?
I have. I have. You're on the trail and you think, Lord, just lead me down this path. I'm just really seeing it, but I need you just to sort of like illuminate it more, and he does. And I think this is the thing, like Jesus said, let the children approach me. The kingdom of God belongs to such like ones. And I think you have to approach it with an open heart, willing to be taught and to change your mind as you grow and mature. If you
Right.
don't grow it,
Yeah.
if you don't change your mind, and some people say, well, no, I've had the truth for eternity. And I think, well, actually, are you still a baby then? Because maturing means to alter and change your thought process, as
Right.
you advance, as you get
Hmm.
older, and that's the thing. For me, we have to morph. We have to alter and we have to change our
Hmm.
thoughts. And again, not I do think that sometimes people, I've listened to people that are, that say they don't believe in what we believe, and I just think, well, I don't know, the argument they put forth, it's almost as if they know it's a faulty argument, but rather than say, actually my argument's faulty and I was wrong,
Mm.
and then for
Yeah.
us all to rejoice, it's almost like they think we're going to sit there and go, we knew we were, we told you. I mean, that would be so awful, and that is never the case. I mean, when I came out the Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, I just rejoiced that God had brought me out and shifted me over. And I'm sure the Apostle Paul thought the same thing,
Hmm.
and yet there were people that thought, who does he think he is? He wasn't there. And you just think, well, it's not about that. Your mindset's not right. You might have been there beforehand, but you're way behind me in understanding the Lord's compassion and kindness.
Yeah, and you know what? Even Paul himself, Paul stops every now and then in his letters while he's writing, and he'll say, "You know what, though? Everything that I ever did before, I considered as dung." He even
Yeah,
stops in his own mind, even within the depths of the doctrine and in the ways that you think. He even stops and
yeah,
says, "You know what? I speak nothing but Christ and Him crucified." Like
exactly.
that's what really matters here, you know. And so, and I think that that's really what matters to all of this. No matter where
Yeah,
we go in this Job study, I think that's what's going to matter the most is that ultimately Job knew who his Redeemer was. He knew he was coming. David knew who his Redeemer was. David knew he was coming and was going to sit on his throne forever. But, and then whenever, God kept pointing to the front, there's going to be a time when I'm going to write my words on their heart and in their mind. And that's the world that we live in today.
Yeah.
And so some of the times we'll say like, well, create in me a clean heart, oh God. We don't have to say that. Those
Yeah.
days are behind us. You have to say, Lord, continue making me more like your son because he is the clean one. He is the good one. He is the light bringer. He is the all in all.
Exactly. And this is it. It's once again, Adam lost the image of God. That's why he was without form and void. But
Right.
here we have Christ once again inhabiting us,
Mm,
breathing. It's like when he said God blew into Adam's nostrils and he became a living being. And you think at that
yes.
time when Jesus blew onto the apostles and the disciples, and he said, receive the Spirit,
Yes.
and it's this
Hmm.
spirit of life that they received then, and it's like us, as soon as we are given the gift of belief. Well, at the end of the day, you are born before you understand that you even believe. A
Yes.
child, a little baby doesn't know it's born until it gets to a certain age. You know,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
it's
Well,
just wonderful to have that. It just is. We are more than blessed. We are His.
absolutely. And I have really enjoyed today's talk. I have. And guys, listen, if you as we close out this episode in Job chapter 3, if you haven't got what we're talking about, go back and read it again and again and again until you do, because this is really where it's at. And now, after Job has spoken and he finally says all this stuff, and it's dark and it's deep and it's
It
hard to
is.
listen to, all of a sudden Eliphaz the Temanite will open up his mouth in chapter 4. And so what we'll do from here on out in this study, Elaine and I have decided that we're going to show you when Eliphaz begins to speak. And maybe you can go ahead and say this, Elaine, because you were telling me when Eliphaz speaks, Job responds, but Eliphaz doesn't respond then. Somebody else does at that point, right?
Exactly. It's like there's the three of them sitting in a line. Job says something, opens his mouth, and then one of them speaks. Then Job
Hmm.
opens his mouth, and the one that asked him the questions or spoke to him doesn't answer. It's the next one, and
Yep.
then Job answers him, but it's the next one that answers Job, and it does that three times
Hmm. That's right.
before you get Elihu, and then of course you get God Almighty then that turns around and then puts everybody right. You know.
Right. So what we're going to try, what I'm going to, Elaine and I are going to try to do here is what's really important is that each one of these men that speak to Job are going, when they open their mouth, they're going to show you some things that are correct and some things that aren't.
Mm,
You're gonna get to see their worldview. That each one of
mm,
them bring a worldview to Job. Job's worldview has been turned upside down,
mhm.
but he still knows the truth about God. He never curses God. There's that one thing he knows. He's not going
Yeah.
to curse God. He knows
No.
something better than them. And
Exactly.
mhm.
Sorry, go on, Rick.
No, it's just the reason why he's remembered as a righteous man with is because of what he actually knew. He,
Exactly. And he
yeah.
goes beyond what they know because they're saying, you must have done something wrong
Hmm.
because there's no injustice with God. So you must have done something wrong. So, but Job is trying to reason on these things because he knows that, well, actually, no, actually, God doesn't do anything wrong. But why am I in this situation? He's trying to really work it out because he just doesn't get it. He doesn't
Hmm.
get it. So he knows more than they do. He's more righteous in his thinking process, really, even though it comes out and it seems like he's just really being honest.
He is, and he's
He's,
saying,
no matter how sort of distorted the honesty is and how deep and dark it is, he can't do anything other than be honest.
right. No, that's exactly right. So what we're going to do, guys, if you want to read ahead, we're going to do Job chapter 4, 5, 6, and 7 in our next one. And the reason why is because it's a call and response. You're going to hear Eliphaz decide to speak out, and boy, oh boy, what a mess. And then Job's going to respond, and we'll let that sort of take place, and then we'll end there in chapter 7, and then we'll get into chapter 8 when the next man speaks up. So we're going to try our best. It's a lot of work. We're going to kind of hit highlights. We can't cover every little bit of it, but just read ahead and be with us in the next discussion.
Absolutely, and we're so glad that they're there, aren't we, Rick? We really
Yes, I
appreciate
am.
being. When I'm talking and saying stuff, I'm actually thinking about what you guys out there are thinking, what you're
Mm.
thinking. Sort of, is it correct, or has it opened different thought processes to you? Are you thinking, like you, Rick? Yeah, that means something to me now. Chapter 88 of Psalms. I didn't really sort of understand, but now I have this depth of understanding. We want that for people, don't we? We want it for ourselves. We want it for each other.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. The closer we are to sort of the depth that we go into, the nearer to God we are.
That's right. And you know what? We're not your teachers. We're not
No,
your teachers. We are
no.
talking about this. You have one teacher. the Holy Spirit. He is your teacher, but we all together are reading the scriptures and trying to talk about it and reason with it. I love this. This is my favorite thing in the world to do. I love to do this, and I love to do it with Elaine. It's so much fun.
Oh, and I love to do it with you, Rick. And I just hope that people get that same feeling that they
And
thoroughly
join us.
enjoy.
Join us,
Yeah.
guys. Join us.
Yeah.
Write your comments. Join in. If you want to join up on the, and get into the live or something and you have time, I don't know where you are in the world. Evidently, she's in the afternoon. I'm in the morning. I don't know where you are. But if you guys want to join us, we're all about it. We love this. We love to study the Bible and talk about it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh, you can have a great influx now. There will be about 500 different little squares on the screen.
Yeah. That would be really cool, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't know. It might be a bit of a noise.
It might be. It might be.
We'll have to get a gavel and go, order, order.
Yes, yes. Well, I think that we'll end here. That's Job chapter 3. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this study, and I hope that you will continue to write comments. All of you that have written comments so far, if none of you have and you feel like you're too late, you're not. Jump in, write your comments, any questions. We'll try to tackle them. We can't promise that we know all the answers, but we just love wrestling with this stuff and talking about it. But most importantly, we both want to point you to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's who we want to point you to.
This is the love story. He is the love story. It's all about him, what he accomplished. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Yes. Wonderful.
All right. Well, God bless you and have a great week, Elaine.
And you too, Rick, and to everybody else out there. God bless you all.
God
love you very
you.
much.